Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This bigger show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Roswell, New Mexico. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we're picking up where the last episode left off with Max saving Kyle's life. I wasn't sure how that was all going to play out, especially with his heart being the way it is, but it's interesting you cut back and forth between that and everything with Liz, where Liz is kind of going through the medical situation she's going through because it's almost like she passed out, but then it's like, all right, like it seemed like it was like she was having a heart attack or something. It's like, what's going on there? Because my immediate thought was like, I thought, and I guess it kind of ended up being this case anyway, but I was thinking like, wait, is he taking the life from Liz and giving it to Kyle, so that basically I ended up kind of sort of being that, but not really. But that's what my immediate thought was, because then I was also thinking like, wait, does this mean like to, save Kyle's life, he's pulling the life that he gave to other people? That's why I was also like, but why is it affecting Liz and not Rosa? He literally went above and beyond to save Rosa, but it's like because they don't, like, he doesn't have the connection to Rosa that he does Liz. So basically the reason why he was able to survive is because his body kind of kicked in. So it took the other connection he has, and that's Liz, and he started drawing life from her to basically compensate for like the damage. Because if he didn't, he would have died bringing Kyle back to life. I mean, he literally, because of the state of the condition he's in right now, it'd basically be like what he did to bring Rosa back to life. Obviously, this is just to heal Kyle, but because his heart's in such a weak condition, it would have been the equivalency of bringing someone back to life. I thought Kyle was straight up dead and had to be brought back to life, but luckily it's like, no, he's just heavily wounded, but he was able to be saved. But obviously, at the time, they didn't know, what was going on, how Max was alive, but he was feeling better on top of things, which I guess, that makes more sense, like why he's feeling great and Liz is feeling like crap. And, she's telling Keith, it's like, right, you got to take me back to Roswell. You need to take me to Max Evans. So obviously that's a complicated thing of like, right, instead of me taking you to a doctor or whatever, some scientist or whatever, you're actually asking me to take you to your sheriff of your cop ex-boyfriend. So it's like, what's going on there? But Liz can't tell him too much because it's like, right, because it's not her secret to tell, because that secret could expose so much. It could expose Max, Isabel, and Michael, but then there's also like what it could do for Maria and Rosa as well, because everyone's lives are intertwined by this secret about aliens and everything. So it's not just about protecting them, it's about protecting everyone that she cares about who's intertwined with all of this. So it's up to her to kind of keep that secret. So, but at the same time, it's not all like, yay, Kyle's alive, because then it turns out there was a murder that happened, Zeke, and then the Lopez's get blamed for it. Obviously, Max tries to be the voice of reason, being like, yeah, every evidence we have is circumstantial, but the sheriff doesn't want to listen. She was like, it's enough to bring them in and stuff like that. So, and I thought this was that complicated thing of like, Max is a good guy. He is a good cop. He tries to do the right thing, but it is the complicated thing of he's in that uniform. For them, it's like, regardless of us being friends, we stop being friends the moment you put that uniform on because of what it represents. Just not just in Roswell with everything that's going on, especially considering like, oh, Sheriff Taylor isn't the most rational person. Like, she's not Kyle's mom's. She's not a Valenti who at least try to keep order, try to keep balance. And that's the thing Max talks about later on. It's like, at the end of the day, like, Sheriff Valenti always, she never picked and choose like who she would represent and like who she let slide. And it's like, no, everyone got the fair shake. She tried to keep that balance in Roswell. Obviously not every place has that balance, but she tried to keep it as much as possible. The Valentis always have. And I think that puts Max in this very complicated situation, because it's like, right, I am trying to do the right thing, but I can also understand why people would be hesitant to believe me, like what this uniform can represent. Even talking to the reporter later on, because she's the one that the Lopez's had actually talked to about everything. I mean, it doesn't help that one of the deputies up there is also like one pushing for like, oh, like he's on some like bigoted stuff too, that he, once again, he's with his beliefs and a badge, worst combination possible. So he's fighting Max on every front. Obviously, the town comes together and protests, but at the same time, it's like, right, Maria has to protect Kyle because now he's got a target on his back, especially now that Jordan knows that he's okay and everything. So, even to the point, like, Kyle's like, he wants to kind of go out there and help and everything, and then Maria makes him put on like a bulletproof Kevlar vest. Just to make sure that he's okay. You even see that look on Gregory's face being like, oh, you're here with Kyle. And I'm like, oh, a little hint of jealousy I see. It's like, no, it's not like that. I thought that was a little neat. They didn't focus on it too much, but it's still there. I'm like, oh, he was a little jealous. Oh, you came here with a Kyle. No, it's fine. But things start kind of spiraling around town. Obviously, it's like it's peaceful protest, but obviously things get kind of twisted and contorted. Like there's a brick that says like "Die Pigs" and it goes through like the sheriff's office, and it's like, oh, Max is like, this is just like Jordan and them inciting stuff. They want a war. They want like, I mean, he had even said as much when he was talking to Kyle about like, oh yeah, the fact is, like, they're essentially the people who are protesting are going to get theirs. I mean, it's like, man, you are just filled with the most hate in the world. We kind of get into that a little bit later on. His hate always ran deep, but in this particular case, he is pissed because his friend was murdered, and he's like, it's like he talks about people of like minorities. It's like, oh, you want to play the victim, and he's like, it's tough in this country for people like me, and that's also that was the whole point Maria was also making too. Is like, it's funny how you want to say, like, you want to like get pissed at everybody except for yourself. You never want to look in a mirror and look at yourself. It's always interesting how the problems in the world always tend to look like people who don't look like you. So I just thought that was such a fascinating and obviously very accurate point, that like he can never recognize the evil he's doing just because it's like, oh, there's all this other evil around me. I'm not the bad guy. I'm the one fighting for what I believe in. The Lopez's, they did this to him, and it's like, no, there was definitely more at play here, which we have obviously get into later on. But because at the same time, like, the fact is that the sheriff called in a group like that, I'm like, what? I don't think there's any police force that would literally call in like what is essentially a personal militia group to like help, because it's like, yeah, you're like not that many people, but I'm like, that seems like super wrong. And maybe there's some legality to that, maybe because it's a small town and she can kind of do whatever she wants to. I guess like under the right circumstances, like the sheriff has that power. But I'm like, that seems super illegal and super wrong, like bringing in like a civilian group to back you up like that. I don't know, that seems like that's super sketchy. That's why I'm like, how are you able? I mean, I guess like she was able to do it because it's like, right, no one outside that room necessarily knows that she did it. But I'm like, I don't know if like Max could have been able to call her out, like, the fact that she brought in that group, because it's like, maybe there's nothing illegal necessarily about it, but like it's just weird. But the conversation with the reporter, because I'm blanking on her name right now. Once again, that actress seems so familiar, and I just don't know what I know her from. I have to look that up afterwards, because I'm like, she looks so familiar, and I can't place her. But she even asked Max, like, why does he put on that uniform? And for him, he's like, I ask myself that question every day. But then, like, every day he also finds a reason why he puts on that uniform. Because he wants to follow the Valenti example of, like, it's like he looked up to their example, the sheriff, like what her example of how she ran things, and he wants to do that too. Like, there's good and bad that comes with that badge, and like I said earlier, like, he understands the bad and why people have a distrust of it. Like, he's like, if I were in anyone else's circumstances, I wouldn't trust like me with the, like, I wouldn't like look at someone with the badge, like, I'd look at them the same way other people do as well, like with skepticism, regardless of who's behind the badge. It's like, right, you having that badge represents a lot, not just what's going on in Roswell, but the entire country. So I get that. And so, like I said, the town just in general, like, Jordan and his crew running rampant, even to the point that they're attacking Rosa and Lisa, Liz's dad. And for him, and I think that was powerful too. Like, Rosa's worried because it's like, right, you putting yourself in this position, protesting could, like, threaten your citizenship, especially because you're so close to it. But for him, it's like, I'm in a position where I finally have a voice in this country. Like, I don't have to worry. Like, I'm on my way. Like, as an American, I have a right. I have a voice now, and I want to use that to help other people fight on, injustices and stuff like that. And, he understands why Rosa doesn't want to get involved either, because it is a thing of, Rosa was all about, raging against the machine, but Rosalina, it's like, that's not her. And he's like, I understand, because caught between who you were and who you want to be and who you are now. Like, having to balance those two identities for Rosa. But for him, it's like, you can't, her dad says, like, basically, you can't go through life, like, not being yourself. So, like, regardless of anything, like, I understand why, but also note, like, you need to be true to yourself. Which she ends up helping Kyle, Maria, and Gregory, as well as Michael, because Michael is Kyle's personal bodyguard in this episode. It's like, yeah, might as well have some alien muscle backing him up and everything. So, but she ended up pointing him in the right direction, because one of the dudes that attacked her dad left his phone, and the password was, what was it, 80085. And it's like, what? Boobs. And you're like, I love the look on Michael and Kyle's face, being like, oh, that's such a kid thing that I'm like, it's so weird that you would still keep boobs. I was like, okay, it kind of shows the mentality that you have, but they were able to expose Jordan and them, like, obviously live and everything, so no getting around that, making it seem like, the fact is he was threatening Maria and Rosa like that. Ain't no denying that, and it's something the sheriff couldn't even cover up even more. So at the end of the day, it's like, she tries to pretend like, especially because they kind of cover up what happened to Zeke. They make it seem like, okay, Zeke is, it was a combination of drinking and blah, 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 blah that led to his death. So they're kind of labeling it as that and nothing more, and just kind of leaving it as that, which I'm sure Jordan is not going to be happy about that. But also, he's locked up, but he's also the mayor's son, so it's not like that's going to stick. He's definitely not going to spend as much time in jail, but at least for now, it's these victories. Like, his group has been kind of, I can't remember if they said disbanded, or at the very least whether they've been kind of. But at the same time, there's a whole situation with Isabel, because her and Michael had the conversation of what do they do about the whole Jones thing. Yes, he wants to protect Max, that's clear, but it also seems like he is hiding something else. But both of them are under the impression, like, yeah, we both know we can't trust him, but they don't really have much of a choice in that, especially after Max went through what he did to heal Kyle. So it's like, right, we need to jump on this while we have the opportunity. So Isabel goes and interrogates Jones, trying to find out what he did in that time he was free. And so he brings up some of the stuff. He's like, oh, I read a book, I befriended a dog, I wanted to see the sunset. It's like, I haven't seen it in 70 years, but it's still the same, but also a little different. And just obviously talking about going to his favorite, like, fishing hole and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, but obviously it's dried up now. But Isabel can look at him and see, like, no, you're lying about something. There's some form of deceit here, which I love. He tries to turn it back on her. It's like, oh, what you're seeing in me is, you're projecting, because you're what Noah put you through. Like, you still haven't dealt with that, so that's what you're just projecting that onto me, which obviously pushes her buttons. And it's like, in the grand scheme of things, we now know, like, obviously he was trying to, like, get her not, like, try to make her doubt herself. But then, like, mentioning the fishing hole made her decide to check it out. And she checked all of them and ended up finding the one in particular and found some stuff there that he had burnt. And it's like, what were you doing? And there was a ID, and I was like, a wallet and an ID. And I'm like, what's the connection there? It didn't even cross my mind to think, like, oh, it had anything to do with Zeke. And I do like that we, like put that all together when it's like, well, so many points converge together. Obviously, Heath and Liz come to Roswell, but obviously because of her condition, it's like Max can't heal her without killing Kyle. So it's like, well, what do we do? So we have no choice but to go to Jones for help. But then it's like, all right, heal me so I can make sure by healing Max's heart, it stops pulling from Liz, and that in turn will stop killing Kyle as well. So it's like, but Isabel shows up in time to reveal he's the one that killed Zeke. But it's because I was in too much of a weakened condition to save Max on my own, so I needed to find somebody to draw that energy from to save Max. Now, I ended up picking the most wicked human being I can find. It's like, the dude was beating up on a farmer, so I was like, yeah, no brainer. But it's also like the drawback to is like Jones's actions set so much stuff in Roswell in motion. So like, I mean, to be fair, Roswell was already a powder keg ready to explode, and this just shortened the fuse, you know, in certain regards. If at the end of the day, it's I believe that I do want to save Max, but because saving Max also means saving these two. Like, how many innocent people need to die, you know? So like Zeke's life, he was a terrible human being, so it's like, you know, it might as well use that terrible life to save 3 lives, that being Liz's, Kyle's, and Max's. But that is the complicated thing of like, well, who are you to play judge, jury, and executioner? Yeah, he might not have been a good person, but like sacrificing his life like that. Also knowing that the reason all 3 of them are alive is because Zeke died. It's like, I don't know, man. Because there's also like, well, the sheriff, she covers it up by being like, oh yeah, like it was something else that kind of was at play there, but it's still kind of like, still kind of makes you feel a little yikes about that. But I'm curious to see how they handle that going forward. But the aftermath to a lot of that is, well, Heath and Liz are over, because for Heath, the moment Liz is like, oh, Kyle, this is Heath, and he's like, colleague. I was like, why he? It sounded like she was about to say boyfriend or something, but and it's like, no. And it's because she lied to him. It's like, if you had told me, like, hey, just leave the room, I need to talk to Max, would I have been happy about it? No, but I would have complied because I would have trusted you. But you lied and sent me out looking for some doctor that doesn't exist. It's like, you made me, but like, I thought that this mission I was on was to help you find someone that could help you. This be the only person that can help you. And every dead end felt like I was failing you, that you were going to die because I couldn't find this person. It's like, when he puts it like that, it's like, yo, you did put him through the ringer, and it is kind of messed up. It's like, once again, it's like, you are protecting the people you care about, but it's like, did you have to go about it that way? At the time, she thought that was the easiest thing to do, but I'm sure like the point will be like, well, why is that the easiest thing to do? Like, couldn't you have thought of a simpler, less painful way? But it's also like, right, I was trying to protect you. I didn't want to hurt you. And it's like, yeah, even when you didn't want to hurt me, Liz, you ultimately ended up hurting me anyway. And so much for us, you know, saving the world together. So, because Liz has decided, well, she was talking to Kyle before that she has decided to come back to Roswell. It's like she left Generex because it's like she always knew on some level coming back to Roswell was where she was meant to be. And Kyle knew on some level too. And she's like, you already kind of knew. And he was like, yeah, but, you know, for her, this is where everything is. And I'm sure like her best chances of kind of saving the world and changing the world start here in Roswell. But there is a complicated thing of her and Max, you know. It's not just the guy in a pod. Like, our issues are bigger than just that. Because despite everything, like, Liz can't forget about Max. Max can't forget about her. But it is this thing of we are constantly stuck in this cycle. And that basically we can't keep going on the way we are. Because even without trying, we hurt each other. And our cycle of things draws in the people that we care about most, and they end up getting hurt. Like, you know, Heath ended up getting like hurt because of all that, and everyone that's in this circle, you know, Michael, Isabel, Kyle, Maria, I'm sure, you know, Rosa, even Alex, and now even Gregory, like these are the people that are going to get hurt the most by all of this. Like, we're going to hurt so many people. So what do you do? Like, how do you break this cycle? Despite it's just like, you know, it's like destiny's pulling you together while also breaking you apart, because you two being together or even being apart, your connections and everything run so deep that it is going to hurt the people. Like, how do you strike some balance? How do you fix that? Like, what is the right thing to do in this regard? because being together seems like that might not be the solution, but also being apart doesn't. I don't know. Maybe being together is a solution. I don't know. Maybe it's a thing of like I said, star-crossed lovers were meant to be type of thing. I don't know. This episode also had like this really powerful moment between Michael and Rosa as well, where, you know, Michael is cleaning up off the side of the wall where it says like, oh, Rosa Ortega is a murderer. And she's like, Liz told you to do that? He was like, no. He's like, it's the least I can do. She's like, well, Michael, I absolve you of everything. But he was like, I'm sorry for what we did. He was like, we were dumb kids, and the fact we were scared, you know. And he said that when he was younger, all he did was like lie in the back of his truck, wondering what kind of life Rosa Ortega would lead if she were still alive. And it's like, if you didn't get the chance to have a life, I decided that I didn't deserve one either. And it was like, for him in his mind, it's like that felt right to him. That it's like, so maybe that's also a reason, because that's the thing about guilt. Like, Michael's had guilt ever since they did what they did, you know, and they took Rosa's life from her. Yeah, she has it back, but it still doesn't erase what they did. And for Michael, it's like, you've proven that, you know, this second chance that you have, like, that, you know, that you can change, like, given a second chance, like, you know, not to waste it type of thing. And he's seen what she's done with hers, and for him, it's like, it gives me hope about maybe my second chance. I'm sure finding all this stuff about his dad, and, you know, just because his dad is who he is doesn't mean he has to, like, submit himself to that destiny. But also considering what they did to Rosa, I think it put things in a lot of perspective for Michael. But even Rosa's like, yeah, you normally don't talk this much back to back. But I thought that was kind of a neat moment between them. So, but obviously Kyle's alive, but even then Maria's still not satisfied, because she's like, she's still just got that like tinge of like intuition, because it's like the ash is still falling, and so for her it's like, as long as that's still falling, like there's still a possibility of things going wrong. So Kyle rolls up at Max's place, and we see someone in an alien mask waiting. So I don't think they were waiting for Kyle. They were probably waiting for Max, but they end up attacking Kyle in the process, because Kyle is the one that bailed out the Lopez's. That was a worry of like, because I'm sure that's also why Jordan's sitting in jail, like not too worried about, because he knows like either Max or Kyle, or maybe a combination of two, will get what's theirs, you know, for like, I mean, he probably put like, I don't know if necessarily he put a hit out, or at least like maybe not all his boys got arrested, so it's like, oh, they're gonna take care of you all for what you've done. So like I said, they stopped things for now, but I think a lot is already set in motion. So Maria ended up getting there in time, and by the time Max gets there he finds Maria knocked out. And I was like, no, please don't tell me you're gonna find Kyle dead, but we don't. So I'm assuming Kyle got taken, and by the time Maria got there, but by the time she did, like, she got attacked in the process. So Kyle got kidnapped. And part of me was like, well, is this actually them, or is this like something else? I think it is Jordan's crew at play here. So it is still the thing of Kyle's life is still potentially in danger. So like I said, we didn't see his body or anything there. Not unless next episode we find it or something. But there was like, it looked like there was some blood, but it doesn't look like it was from Maria. It might have been from Kyle. I don't know. That, like, once again, that just kind of suck considering all they went through. But that's also the thing of, maybe despite all they do, like, Kyle's death is inevitable type of thing. I hope not, because it's like, you thought for a second you felt like, oh, they changed destiny, but maybe it's a thing of some things are just set in motion. Like, there are just some points that are fixed, that even despite all that they do, they can't change it, that it all plays a part in that this is all playing a role in all of that, you know? But for Kyle, like, if it means giving his life to protect something, he would. And he's put himself in that position before. I don't know, man. I hope it doesn't turn out that way, but we'll ultimately have to wait and see where everything takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.